Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome back to the channel. This is GED Math with Mr. Leo. Today's lesson is called Starting in the Middle, GED Math for Beginners. Today we're going to do an intro to circle geometry, which will be a gateway to algebra and functions. All I need you to have is a notebook, a calculator, and an open mind. Let's get started. Okay, welcome to the lesson, GED Math for Beginners, starting in the middle. Today's lesson is Circle Geometry as an intro to algebra and functions. These are the three biggest parts of the GED Math test: geometry, algebra, and functions. I have a lesson here for you that I've been working out for years in my classes with my students. I want to share it with you now. The best part of this lesson is you don't need any prior knowledge. All you need to know to do this lesson and to get started is how to use a calculator to do multiplications with decimals. Okay, your supplies for this lesson, you're going to need a notebook and a pen or pencil. You must write this stuff down. If I'm writing on the screen, you should be writing as well. That is the secret to our success. You also need a math calculator. You need some kind of calculator. Now, that could be a calculator on your phone, perhaps. That could be a separate calculator. That could be another device. The only thing is that needs to be a separate device from what you're watching this video on. If you're watching this video on your phone, you cannot use the calculator on your phone. You understand? I need you to keep the work on the screen, and if you got to do calculations and type stuff in, you do that on the side, and it does not interfere with what we're doing. You understand? So you need a notebook, a pen or pencil, and some kind of math calculator that is a separate device. It's important actually for this lesson that you use a calculator. I know some of you might say, oh, no, I like to write everything down. I like to write it out. And that's good and that's important, but this actually is not the place for that. They're going to give you a calculator for most of the GED tests. You need to use it. We don't have time to be writing out all the crazy decimal calculations that come up on the GED. We don't have time for that. And professional mathematicians and scientists, they don't do everything by hand. They rely on calculators to get the work done. But as you know, as a student of this, having a calculator does not just give you all the answers. We have to do a lot of thinking. We have to apply a lot of methods. That's what we're working on here. My point is, I need you to use a calculator for this lesson. Do not try to write all this out by hand. This is not the place to practice that. I will make a separate video in the future covering how to multiply by hand, long division, long multiplication, decimals, and all of that. But today is not the place for that. Today, we need to do this proper methods in the notebook with a calculator. Today, I'm using a calculator app on my Android phone. It's a free simulator of the GED calculator. I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. But again, any calculator will be fine. So the prior knowledge for this lesson, all you need to know is how to type in decimals into a calculator. For example, can you do something like this right now? 1.75 times 9 in the calculator. Don't write it out. I know maybe you can write it out, but that's not what I'm asking. Can you type this in right now? 1.75 times 9 is 15.75. Did you get that answer? This is all you need to know to be able to do today's lesson. Do one more for me. Can you tell me what is 3.17 times 8.2? Can you do that for me on your calculator? 3.17 times 8.2. I got 25.994. Did you get that answer? I hope so. That's what I need you to be able to do this lesson. All right, shall we begin? We're going to start today's lesson with circle geometry vocabulary. I want you to take your notebook and write down all of this stuff. Feel free to pause the video if you need time to do that. I need you to have all of this written down in your notebook. Okay, our first vocabulary word here is pi. Pi you may have heard of before. Pi is a special irrational number used with circles. Pi is equal to approximately 3.14. For today's lesson, all you need to know is that pi is approximately 3.14. That's all you need to know. If you want a little more information, where does pi come from? What does irrational mean? Why do we use this number? I have posted a separate video on that. It's a shorter video. It's a part of this series. Feel free to check that out at any time if you want a little more background information about pi. For our purposes today, all you need to know is when you see this symbol, pi, we are going to substitute in parentheses 3.14. Okay. Our next vocabulary word is radius. Radius is the distance from the center of the circle to the edge. Radius is always half the diameter. So here's my circle. We could call this approximately the center. Radius would be this distance from the center to the edge. That is 1 radius. We use the letter R to indicate radius. Now, I could have just as easily drawn that in a different direction. The radius could be shown to the right, to the left, up, down. It doesn't matter. Anywhere that goes from the center of the circle to the edge of the circle is considered a radius. Now, it says here radius is always half the diameter. That is our next vocabulary word, diameter. Say these words out loud for me, please. Diameter, radius. All right. Diameter is the distance across the circle passing through the center. Diameter is always twice the radius. So if I continue this line all the way edge to edge, this entire line here is a diameter. Diameter is the full distance across the circle. I could also draw it this way. This is considered a diameter, and we label that with the letter D. Please sketch a picture of this in your notebook right now. You'll notice diameter is always twice the radius. We could cut this in half and we would have a radius here and a radius here. Diameter is the full distance. Radius are these half distances. Our next vocabulary word today is circumference. Say it out loud with me. Circumference. Circumference. Circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle. This would be the perimeter of the circle. You might have heard that word, perimeter. Perimeter means the outside of the shape, the outside. The perimeter of the building is the outside of a building. Secure the perimeter. That means everybody lock the windows and close the doors, securing the perimeter. Perimeter is the outside of a shape. Circumference is the perimeter of a circle. Circumference is the distance around the outside of the circle. Draw a picture of that in your notebook. We label that with the letter C. Good. Our next word is area. Area is the space inside the circle. Area is all of this space in here. It's the gray area of this circle. We label area with the letter A. And please notice here, area is measured in square units, such as square feet, square centimeters, square miles, etc. So you could see an area, perhaps an area could be 20 square feet. Sometimes we see that written this way, FT with a little 2 in the corner, or sometimes that could be written abbreviated, perhaps as SQ for square feet. These mean the same thing. Please write this in your notebook. You know, they measure apartments or houses in square feet. What's the square footage of the house? That means what's the area of all the floors of the apartment? For now, all you really need to know is if we're doing area, you're not going to give your answer as regular feet. You'll give your answer as square feet. You don't give area in miles. You give area in square miles or square centimeters. You get it? I'll be showing you more of that later. Don't worry. All right, our next word here is sphere. Say this one out loud for me. Sphere. Sphere. That's PH making the F sound. Sphere. What is a sphere? A sphere is a three-dimensional circle, such as a ball, an orange, like the fruit, right? A nice orange, a good-looking orange is approximately a sphere. Yeah, you could squish it a little bit, but essentially that shape is a sphere, like a ball, a baseball, a basketball, a bowling ball, or even a planet. Now, when we say three-dimensional, do you know this word? Three-dimensional refers to having depth, width, and height or length. Either way, it goes this way, that way, and this way. Physical objects are all three-dimensional. This notebook is actually three-dimensional because it has a little bit of width here. We have a length this way, we have a width this way, but that little bit of thickness here, that's the third dimension. When we say three-dimensional, we mean physical objects. So a sphere is a three-dimensional circle, like a ball. Okay, our last vocabulary word is volume. Volume. Now, it's kind of hard to draw a sphere because they basically look like circles, but sometimes you will see it with kind of this curved dotted line, something like that, trying to indicate that it has some real curvature to it, that it is three-dimensional and is representing a physical object. All right, now spheres, we often measure them in volume. Now, this is a geometry vocabulary word, volume. Volume does not mean what we usually use it to mean in regular life. In daily life, we say, hey, please lower your volume. That means lower your voice, be quiet. Or turn up the volume. That means turn up the music, make it louder. We often use volume to mean sound. However, in math class and in science, volume actually means the space inside a three-dimensional shape. What is the volume of this water bottle? That means how much water does it hold? What is the space inside the water bottle? That's volume. Volume is the space inside a three-dimensional shape. So a sphere has a volume. How much air would that ball hold? How much Earth is inside planet Earth, for example? Volume, notice, is measured in cubic units, such as cubic feet, cubic centimeters, cubic inches, etc. We could say the volume of something, perhaps it's 100 cubic centimeters. See that? CUCM? Cubic centimeters. This could also be written as 100 cm with a 3 in the corner. That 3 is for three-dimensional. Cubic. All right, please write that down. Take notes of that. I'll be reminding you of this the entire time we're working. So this is your heads up, but don't worry. I don't expect you to have this all under control. I'll just be showing you this again and again as we work. Okay. Take a minute. Make sure you have all this stuff written in your notebook. And now let's keep going. Okay, here we are. Circle geometry formulas. These three formulas will be given to you when you take the GED test. When you take the GED math test, they are going to give you a page of formulas, meaning you do not have to memorize these formulas. You just need to understand them and know how to use them. They will be given to you when you take the test. Today's entire lesson is focusing on these three formulas. That's all we're covering today. I'm going to help you understand, read these, and use them with success. It's not as bad as it looks. Let's look at the first one right here. Circumference of a circle. Remember, circumference means the outside of a circle. This formula, if we type in the numbers, will tell us the distance around a circle. Now, remember, this is a language class. We're learning the language of math and the language of algebra. So it's written this way. C equals 2 pi r. Now, the language of math tells us that if we have a number directly in front of a symbol or letter, like we have here, that means to multiply. And if we have a symbol in front of a letter or two letters next to each other, that means they multiply. This is part of the language. So what this whole thing means right here is 2 times pi times the radius. We could even think of it this way. C equals 2 times pi times the radius. Okay? We'll be putting that to work on the next page. For now, let's just look at all three of these formulas. The next one is area of a circle. This formula will tell us the space inside of a circle. And what does it translate to? What does it mean? Well, A equals pi r squared. This second power, this 2 here, we sometimes call squared, and that means radius times itself. So we could even write this one out as area equals pi times the radius times the radius again. This is what that second power means, radius times radius. All right, look at this third one. This is a pretty intense looking formula here. This is the formula for the volume of a sphere. Now it looks a little crazy. I see a fraction, I see a third power, but don't be distressed. I got you. All right, we're going to start here. Volume equals 4 divided by 3. This is how I want you to deal with these fractions. Listen, real talk. I've been teaching math for 20 years now, and I still don't like fractions. Fractions still irritate me, get me a little bit mixed up. The way they teach them in the textbooks makes me want to throw my notebook out the window sometimes, all right? So I got you though, don't worry. The best way to deal with this fraction, and could be any fraction you ever see, is to treat it like a division. Open a parenthesis and simply write 4 divided by 3. That's all you got to do. All right. Side note, look at the symbol for division, right? This is the division symbol. Look at it closely. It's actually the structure of a fraction. Look, I got the horizontal fraction bar. The dot on top indicates a number. The dot on the bottom indicates the other number, right? See this over here, 4 over 3? That's basically a division sign. Get it? Anyways, when we see this fraction here, we're going to treat it like a division. Put it in parentheses. And now let's continue. We're going to multiply this with pi, and then we're going to multiply this with the radius to the third power. That means radius times radius times radius again. 3 instances of the radius. All right. Now this is a fairly long expression here, but that's why we're using the calculator. We're going to type all this into the calculator and everything's going to be just fine. Now, while we're here, we should also mention who invented these formulas? Where did these come from? Well, just like the number pi itself, these were not invented by any person. If you're religious, you would say that these formulas came from God. If you're not religious, you could say that these formulas are a part of the fabric of the universe. No human made these formulas. They're from the universe itself. They're part of physical reality. Now, what people did do is identify them, study them, name them, and write them out this way. But the essence of these formulas themselves comes from the universe. All right, let's put these to work. I'll show you right here how we do this. Okay, here's our first set of problems. I'm going to show you the best way to do this. We're going to do it the long way. We're going to write everything down. Do it in your notebook. So let's start right here on the first one. Calculate the circumference of each circle. Number 1. Well, first off, tell me, what information do we have about this circle? Well, we can see that this line segment here is indicating that the radius is 5 centimeters. Do me a favor. Try to sketch that in your notebook. Sketch that circle, label it, and make sure you clearly write R equals 5. That's what this picture is showing us. Now, to solve this, we're going to first start by writing out the formula. Write the original complete full formula. Circumference of a circle is found by using C equals 2 pi r. That's the original formula. They're going to give this to you. We write it out. Now, beneath that, we're going to substitute in the numbers that we know. C stands for circumference. We don't know the circumference. That's going to be our answer. So we leave it alone. We bring down the equal sign. 2 is the number 2. We bring it down. And now here we see pi. Instead of pi, we're going to substitute by opening a parentheses and putting in 3.14. Close the parentheses. Good. Now we have to use r. R in this case is 5. The radius is 5. Open another parenthesis, put the 5 in there, and close it. And now we have a complete expression. I've seen some questions on the GED where this step itself is the answer. Sometimes they don't even need you to work out the math. That's what the calculators are for. Sometimes what they're looking for is that you can just set up the question, that you can set it up and plug the numbers in correctly. This is a great example of that. Sometimes this is all you got to do. But right now, and for a lot of problems, we do want an answer. So grab your calculator. Just to be very clear, I'm going to rewrite this. This we can think of as 2 times 3.14 times 5. Now, it's also part of the language of math that if I have a number outside a parenthesis that's directly touching that parenthesis, that means we multiply. And if I have two sets of parentheses that touch, that means they multiply. So the language of math tells us that this means 2 times 3.14 times 5. Type that into your calculator now. 2 times 3.14 times 5. And the answer is 31.4. Beautiful. 31.4. To make it complete, let's use the units. In this case, that is centimeters. Final answer, 31.4 centimeters. Nice. All right. Let's do number 2 over here. Now we start with the very important first step. Always write the original raw formula. C equals 2 pi r. Trust me, you want to write that every single time for every question. It will help us stay organized. Now, look at the diagram here. Sketch it in your notebook. What information have they given us? Well, this line segment, because it goes from the center to the edge, indicates that it's a radius. The radius is 10. Write that down clearly as a separate piece of information. R equals 10. So let's plug in what we know. C is C. That's going to be our answer, the circumference. Bring down the equal sign. 2 is 2. Pi, we're going to open that parenthesis and write 3.14. Close the parenthesis. And now let's look at R, the radius. In this case, the radius was 10. Open a parenthesis and use 10. Close that parenthesis. Perfect. This is now ready to type into the calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 10. Answer, 62.8. C equals 62.8. And it was M for meters, 62.8 meters. This is the distance around this circle here. If this circle measures 10 meters from center to the edge, I would say it probably measures 20 meters all the way across, and that means the distance around it is 62.8 meters. Nice. I'm going to clear my screen and we're going to do number 3. Here's number 3. All right, the first thing we want to do, we're still finding circumference. Rewrite that formula. C equals 2 pi r. Over here on the side, I'm going to take a note. They have given us the radius. The radius is 3 millimeters. R equals 3. So now let's plug in what we know. C is C for circumference. It's going to be our answer. We don't know it yet. Bring down the equal sign. 2 is 2. Pi, we're going to open a parenthesis and put in 3.14. Close the parenthesis and bring down R. In this case, R is 3. So have a new parenthesis, put in the 3, and close it up. All right. This means 2 times 3.14 times 3. We're going to type that into the calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 3. We get 18.84. Circumference equals 18.84. Now, what were the units? The original diagram has mm for millimeters, so our answer is going to also be millimeters. The distance around this circle is 18.84 millimeters. Good job. How does this feel? Is it working okay? You getting the answers with me? Make sure you're writing all this in your notebook so you develop nice habits and you have something to look at later. Remember, this is calculator math. We don't want to be writing this out by hand, but we want to be writing these steps. The steps I have on the screen, you want to write that out for every question. All right, let's move on. All right. Now, these are the same circles as the previous page, but now we are to calculate the area. Area. Okay, so this first one here, number 4, let's write the formula. Area, if we look at our notes, we see that it is pi r squared. Remember, they're going to give you these formulas. You don't have to have them memorized. You just have to know where to find them and how to use them. So, A is going to be our answer. That is the area. We don't know it yet. Bring down the equal sign. Pi is going to be 3.14 as usual. And now we have r squared. Now, look at the picture. Do we know r? Do we know the radius? Yes, it's the same as last page. And again, because it goes from the center to the edge, that is a radius. The radius is 5. So we'll open a parenthesis and put the 5 there. Now, here's how I like to do it. That second power means the radius times itself. So let's just show a second instance of 5. See how this is pi times the radius squared? The two instances of the radius, 5 times 5, that's coming from this second power. All right. At this point, grab the calculator, type it in. 3.14 times 5 times 5. I got 78.5. The area is 78.5. Now, what are the units? Well, the original diagram was in centimeters, but because we're doing area, we have to answer as square centimeters. Area is always square units. We could write it this way, or we could write it this way with the little 2 in the corner. All right, these are the same answers. You need to get used to seeing both of these. Square centimeters or centimeters squared. These mean the same thing. Nice one. Let's try the next one. We're looking for area, so let's start by writing the original full formula. A equals pi r squared. Now beneath that, let's rewrite it, plugging in what we know. We don't know the area yet. We'll keep it the letter A. Bring down the equal sign. Pi is 3.14 in parentheses. Now we have radius squared. Do we know the radius? Yes, we do. It's this 10 right here. I'm going to label that for myself just to be real clear. R equals 10. So it's going to be 10 times another 10. 2 instances of 10 because of the radius squared, the second power. We can type this into the calculator now. 3.14 times 10 times 10. I'm getting 314. You with me? A equals 314. That looks a little weird, right? That kind of looks like pi. Did we do something wrong? Well, anytime you think you might have done something wrong, just double check. 3.14 times 10 times 10. 3.14 times 10 times 10. Pi r squared, that's the radius. Yeah, I think I typed it in right. So this is just one of those numbers that comes out that way. It looks kind of like pi because we multiplied 3.14 by these tens with the zeros. It just moved the decimal place. You don't need to worry about that. Just know we did it right. And tell me, what are the units? Original question was M for meters. This is going to be square meters because it's area. And again, we could have wrote this as 314 meters to the second power. Now, please notice, if we write it this way, meters squared, meters with the 2, please notice that that 2, that exponent, does not touch the number. The number is still 314. It is not 314 to the second power. The second power is just part of the label. It's a label on the units. It's letting us know that the units are squared. Inside this circle right here, you could fit 314 square meters. 314 squares would fit inside that circle. Good. Next one, you ready? What's the first step? Right, write out the original formula. A equals pi r squared. Now let's plug in what we know. Pi is going to be 3.14. Radius is 3. We're going to need to see it twice because of the second power. Here is our complete expression. Again, I've seen questions on the GED where that step right there, that's the answer. They don't even ask you to type it in or get a final result. They almost consider that to be the easy part. This is the hard work that we just did. This requires the understanding. So nicely done. Let's type it in though. 3.14 times 3 times 3. I got 28.26. Final answer here, area is 28.26. What? What units? Millimeters. So in this case, that would be square millimeters. I'm going to write mm with a little 2 in the corner. Beautiful. All right. How do you guys feel? Is it working? You coming along for the ride? You taking nice clean notes in your notebook? Great job. Let's go a little further. All right, here's another page. The instructions say find circumference and area for each circle. So we'll do each one 2 different answers. For number 7, we'll start right here. This one labeled 6 centimeters. We're going to first find circumference and then the area. 2 separate answers. All right, so circumference, the first step, we have to write out the formula. C equals 2 pi r. So C is going to be our answer. 2 is 2. Pi is 3.14. But now, what is the radius? Look closely at this picture. You notice something different? What information are they giving us? Well, look, this line segment goes all the way across, which indicates this is actually a diameter. The diameter is 6 centimeters. Now, they did not give us the radius, and we're using the formula that asks for the radius. So, what are we going to do? Well, remember, every radius is half the diameter, and I hope you can see that in this case. It is going to be half as much. Here is the radius. Tell me in your head, what's half of 6? That's going to be 3 centimeters. Radius is 3 cm. So this is the number we want to use. We see radius here. We're going to use a 3. See how we did that? 2 times pi times the radius, which we said had to be 3 centimeters. Grab your calculator, type it in. 2 times 3.14 times 3. I got 1884. All right. Wait, didn't we see that number before? 18.84? And the answer, yes, we did. We did see that before. And you're going to notice as you do a lot of these pi questions, if we're using whole numbers, we start to see these similar numbers coming around. They're multiples of pi. It's because this is 6 times 3.14. You're going to see these numbers a lot. So just roll with it. That's a good thing. If you recognize the answer, that means you might have done it right. 18.84 centimeters, final answer. All right, that was circumference. Let's do the area. Area equals, I'm still doing this first question right here. Area equals pi r squared. Always start with the raw formula. This will keep you from getting mixed up. Make sure you copied it over correctly. They look kind of similar to each other, but they're different. So area is going to be our answer. Pi is 3.14. Radius, in this case, we figured out was 3. So we're going to have to see that 3 2 times. Wait, Leo, isn't this the same circle as before? It might be. Don't worry about it. Practice makes perfect. Repetition is part of the process. So I'm going to type this in the calculator. 3.14 times 3 times 3, 28.26. Now, get this right for me. What are the units? 28.26 what? Aha, this one is going to be square centimeters. Why square centimeters? Because it's an area. Every area is measured in square units. Good. Let's do the next one. I'm going to clear my screen. We're doing number 8 now. Okay, circumference comes first, but you know what? Let's just label. What do we know? What are they giving us right here? I see 9 feet across. Right. So this is a diameter equals 9 feet. Now tell me, what's the radius? Well, radius is going to be half of the diameter. So what do we do? Well, the best way to find half of something is just divide it by 2. 9 divided by 2, use the calculator. 9 divided by 2, 4.5. Aha, 4.5. So the radius is 4.5 feet. All right. This is the number that we're going to be using. Let's start with circumference. C equals 2 pi r. Next line, C is going to be our answer. We don't know it yet. 2 is 2. Pi is 3.14. right? You're starting to make friends with that number now, right? 3.14, not so bad, huh? All right, now radius. What's the radius? We worked it out to be 4.5 feet. So open a parenthesis and type that in. All right, we got a lot of decimals here. Is that an issue? No, because we're using the calculator as we're instructed to do and as will be given when we take the GED test. 2 times 3.14 times 4.5. Oh, 28.26, another one. Interesting. C equals 28.26. Now, did we do something wrong? I feel like we keep seeing this number. No, we are just fine. This is a multiple of pi. You're going to get it a lot doing these kind of questions. To finish this, let's use the units. That's feet. Final answer here is feet. All right, that's the circumference. Let's do the area. I'm going to erase this note over here. I'm going to keep the information in the center, though, because these are the numbers we're going to need. So we're still on number 8. We're doing area. Start with the original formula. A is pi r squared. All right. A is 3.14 times radius. That's going to be 4.5 times another 4.5. Please excuse my handwriting. You know what's going on. You're writing this down in your notebook, right? So 3.14 times 4.5 times 4.5. Here we go. This number looks a little wild. Did you get 63.585? All right. Anytime you get an answer that looks weird, just double check. 3.14 times 4.5 times 4.5, right? That was the radius. It's in there 2 times because of the formula. I typed it in on my calculator, 3.14 times 4.5 times 4.5. I typed it in. I got my answer. This is the answer. That's it. We did it. Final answer here should be square feet. I'm going to write feet with a little 2 in the corner to indicate square feet. This is the area for that middle circle, number 8. All right. Don't be scared of those decimals. Just be thorough, copy them down, and keep it moving. Okay. I'm going to clear my screen, and we're going to do number 9. All right, number 9 over here. Let's just write down, what do we know? Well, this is indicating the diameter is 12. And tell me, what would the radius be in this case? You can do it in your head maybe, but if not, just do 12 divided by 2 and type that into your calculator. That's how we find half. We divide by 2. Oh yeah, it's 6. Cool, that makes sense. All right, so now let's start with circumference. Step 1 is write the raw formula. C equals 2 pi r. So we're going to plug in what we know. 2 is 2. Pi is 3.14. What's the radius in this case? It is 6. All right, now let's grab the calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 6. Okay. C equals final answer 37.68. What is it? Inches. Regular inches because we're doing circumference. All right, let's do the area now. Start with the raw formula. A equals pi r squared. Remember, they're going to give you this formula. You just got to know where to find it, how to use it. A is going to be our answer. Pi is 3.14. Radius is 6, as we figured out. It's going to appear 2 times because of the 2 in the formula. Radius squared means radius times radius. 3.14 times 6 in the calculator. Ooh, here's a number. Final answer here, 113.04. What are the units? They will be square inches. SQIN. Or feel free to write it the other way. 113.04 inches squared with the little 2 in the corner. These are both the same answer. Can you see it? Are you speaking my language? Good. Good job, guys. Now, some questions that could be asked, well, what about rounding? Should I round this off? And the answer is you could, but for today, let's not worry about that. Let's just write down what we got here. We'll do a separate lesson in the future about rounding and all the little details with that. For me, these are perfect answers, 100% complete. All right, I'm going to clear my screen. Let's keep it moving. Okay, how about these two right here? Number 10 and 11. Find circumference of the circle shown below. Bonus question, can you also find the area? Okay, so let's look at this first one here. It's a good idea when you see stuff like this. First off, let's just write down and label. What do we know? What are they indicating here? Is this a radius or a diameter? This is a diameter because it's going all the way across the circle. The diameter is 2.7. So what would the radius be? Well, that's going to be 2.7 divided by 2. I'll type that into the calculator. 2.7 divided by 2, and I get 1.35. All right, the number looks weird, but as long as I keep writing everything down, we stay organized, it's all going to come together. All right, that's nicely labeled up here. You might say, hey, Leo, why are you using a capital D and a lowercase r? I've just seen it that way. I got used to it that way. You don't have to. All right, so we're doing circumference first. Write the original formula. Don't ever skip this step. Trust me. How long does it really take just to do this? C equals 2 pi r. Isn't it worth taking a few seconds to always rewrite the formula and not make any mistakes? Just write it out. Now let's plug in what we know. 2 is 2. Pi is 3.14. And the radius is what? 1.35. All right. Grab a calculator. 2 times 3.14 times 1.35. Oh, wow. Look at this number. 8.478. And this would be inches. All right. Okay. Well, since we're doing this one, we might as well get the area of it too. We're going to have to do that for both. So here comes the area. Let's write the original formula. That is pi r squared. I'm still working on number 10 over here, right? I'm still working on number 10. So plug in what we know. Pi is 3.14 in parentheses. The radius squared, that means it's going to appear twice, is 1.35. So I'm going to do 1.35 in parentheses times another 1.35 in parentheses. All right. So grab your calculator. 3.14 times 1.35 times 1.35. Ooh, look at this number. A equals 5.7225. That number looks real crazy. Let me double check. 3.14 times 1.35 times 1.35. 5.72265. That checks out. That's the answer. Let's put some units on that. That is going to be inches squared. I'm going to write it this time like this. Remember, that could have also been SQIN to indicate square inches. Either one. All right. This answer might be rounded off. We're going to have a separate lesson on rounding in the future. For today, leave it just like that. All right. Let's do this number 11. One more circumference problem here before we switch it up. I'm going to clear my screen. Let's do number 11 now. Let's label what we know. What are they giving us right here? This is a radius. You know that because it's only traveling to the center. So the radius is 4.1. Since we're here, could you tell me what would the diameter be? Can you tell me what is the diameter? Well, remember, every diameter is twice a radius. So tell me, what is 4.1 times 2? 4.1 times 2 is 8.2. I don't know if we're going to need that number to go ahead, but I just want to show you it's right there if you did need it. I want you to see the connections between radius and diameters. It's very important that we understand the difference. This is one common place that people make mistakes with. The key is to label everything so we're all good. All right, we're doing circumference first. We're going to start by writing the formula. C equals 2 pi r. And we'll plug in what we know. C is going to be the answer. 2 is 2. Pi is 3.14. And the radius in this case was given to us, right? It was given to us in the first place. That is 4.1. 2 pi r. All right, I go to the calculator here. 2 times 3.14 times 4.1. Final answer here, I got 25.748. Units would be regular feet. Remember, circumference is always just regular units. This circle, if it measures 4.1 to the center, if it measures 8.2 all the way across, it would measure 25 point something to go all the way around. All right, good. Let's also find the area. The original formula, A equals pi r squared. Let's plug in what we know. Pi is 3.14. Radius, double check, 4.1. And it's going to appear twice because of the second power. This is our expression right here. Looks nice, looking good. Grab the calculator. 3.14 times 4.1 times 4.1. Final answer in this case is a long decimal, 52.7834. Units would be square feet because it's area. Area is always in square units. You could put 52 little squares inside of the circle. All right, we are doing great. If you've come this far, you already got most of the lesson. But I would like to push a little further, and I would like to look at that volume formula for the sphere that I showed you originally. I'm going to clear my screen now, and let's move on. Here we are, volume of a sphere. This crazy looking formula will be given to you when you take the test. All you got to do is know how to plug into it. So here we go. This is a sphere. You can see it's a sphere because of the curved lines. The solid curved line here is trying to show you the front of the sphere. The dotted lines are trying to show you things maybe behind the sphere, the back of the sphere, or the inside. These curved lines are trying to show you that it's a three-dimensional shape. All right, this is like a ball. Okay, now what is given to us? 4 inches. Is that a radius or a diameter? It's a radius because it only travels to the center, from the edge to the center. So we'll say this radius is 4 inches. Please write that down. I think it's a really good habit to start learning. Whenever you're doing a geometry question or even a word problem, once you identify some information, just write it down really clearly so it's there for you to use. R equals 4 inches. All right, let's go to the formula. Here it is right here. Now I want you to write it out for yourself without any changes. Here is the original formula. A fraction 4/3, the pi symbol, the letter R with a third power. You ready? I'm going to break this down. V is for volume. That is going to be our answer. This will indicate the space inside the sphere. 4/3 is a fraction. All I want you to do is open a parenthesis and write 4 divided by 3. This is one way to deal with any fraction you ever see. Pi is 3.14. And now we have radius to the third power. We indicated that radius is 4. So I need to see that 4 written out 3 different times. 3 instances of the 4. This essentially is going to make us do 4 times 4 times 4 again. Okay. Now, this crazy looking thing right here, we're going to type it all into the calculator. Just type the whole thing in. If you can put it all on the screen at once, great. If you got to go step by step, just keep going. So here we go. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 4 times 4 times 4. Double check that we got all the numbers in there. Okay, final answer here. 267.9466666. I'm losing count. It's okay. And then on my calculator, the last one is a 7. Now that looks crazy, but just use it for now. Don't worry. To complete the answer, I need to include the units. This would be cubic inches. It's inches because we're giving inches, and it's cubic because every volume will be given in cubic units. Okay. Now, to be clear, when I typed this into my calculator, I did not use the parentheses. I just typed in 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 4 times 4 times 4. In the future, we're not going to write this step out, but I think for now, it's a pretty good idea to look at this. This is what we typed in. It looks crazy, but if you just type it in step by step, it's going to be fine. And it gives us this crazy answer. Now, you could round this off. This is approximately 267.9. All of these repeating decimals over here, they're usually going to get rounded off. Please remember that pi itself is an approximation, so they're actually not that important. If you watched my other video, pi is not exactly 3.14. It goes on and on. So all these numbers are slight approximations, so I'm not really worried about that. Now, if your calculator did give you this answer, though, I should mention something. This number is 66666 all the way. Do you know why I threw a 7 at the end? It's because they rounded up the last digit. That last digit, 6, got rounded up to a 7. That's a feature some calculators have. I really don't want you to worry about that so much right now. Please notice that this answer is approximately 267.9 cubic inches. This is really what we're working on now. I'll do another lesson later on about rounding, and we'll deal with these as they come up. For now, I need you to get something like this. If you got something like this, we're doing great. Look at that crazy formula. Let's do another one. Here is another sphere. You notice the formula is the same. This is the formula. Who made that formula up? If you're religious, it was God. If you're not religious, no one made it up. It's part of the universe. This is part of the fabric of reality. The material reality of the world created that formula. We're just here to study it and use it. Okay, so let's do this right here. What information have they given us? You'll notice this measurement right here is a radius. Let's write that down. Radius is 12 feet. All right, let's work this out. Step 1, rewrite the entire original formula. No shortcuts. Volume is 4/3 pi r to the third power. Now let's break it down. Volume will be our answer. 4/3, I want you to open a parenthesis and treat that as a division, 4 divided by 3. Close that parenthesis, bring down pi in another parenthesis, 3.14, and now we have radius to the third power. The radius was 12 feet, so I need to see 3 instances of 12. All right. This should be enough right here to type into the calculator, but since we're just getting started, you could really type this in like so. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 12 times 12 times 12. This is what it means. This is the language of math. Notice that we have 4 divided by 3. That's from the original fraction. We have 3.14. That's from pi. And we have 12 times 12 times 12. That is the radius to the third power. Okay, grab your calculator. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 12 times 12 times 12. And my final answer here, V equals 7,234.56. Hey, at least that decimal is not too crazy. All right. What are the units? Cubic feet. Right. I'm going to write CUFT for cubic feet or feet with the third power. Either way, that means the same thing. Final answer here. If I have a sphere, it has a radius of 12 feet. That means it's 24 feet all the way across. That's pretty big. But inside that, you could fit over 7,000 cubic feet. That's 1 foot by 1 foot cube. 7,000 of those would fill that sphere. All right. Are you getting these answers? Are you taking notes? Let's do a few more. We're doing great. This is the last part of the lesson. Let's just get a little sharper with it. All right. Here is another one. Calculate volume of this sphere. So first off, what do we know? We can see here that the radius is 22 yards. YD is for yards. All right. We're going to need the formula. You should look in your notebook. What was the formula? You tell it to me. All right. Is that it? Did I do it? Double check. Cool. All right. Let's plug it in. V is going to be the answer. For that fraction, I'm going to open a parenthesis. Just treat it like a division. We know what pi is. And I'm going to need to see that radius written 3 times. 22 times 22 times 22. Again, on some questions, this step right here, this is the answer. Sometimes that's enough. Because really, if you're good with a calculator, we have the answer. It's right here. Let's type it in. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 22 times 22 times 22. Woo, this is a crazy looking one. Here we go. V equals 44579.62. And then I got a whole lot of sixes. The sixes go on and on and on and on. I'm going to casually round that off right now because I feel like it. 44579.6. For today, that's good enough. We'll do another lesson on that later. And this would be cubic yards. C-U-Y-D. Cubic yards. So let's read this like a number. This would be 44,579.6 cubic yards would fit inside this shape. All right. Great job, guys. I got a couple more and then we're out of here. All right. Last 2 problems of the day. What about these? What is the volume? So tell me, what information do we know? This first one, it is a sphere. We can see that because of these curved lines are trying to indicate that it has depth, that it's 3-dimensional and physical. The 2 centimeters looks to be labeling this line crossing the figure. I would call that a diameter. This would be diameter is 2 cm. All right, this one looks very similar. It's just labeled differently. So this one would be diameter of 10 cm. But now remember, these formulas take radius. So what's the radius? Well, what's half of 2? In this case, the radius would be 1 cm. And this one, can you see it? What's half of 10? This radius would be 5 cm. Take a minute, try to draw these in your notebook, and make sure we label these numbers. These are what we're going to need. All right, let's do the first one, volume. Here is the original raw formula. 4/3 pi r to the 3rd power. Let's plug in what we know. 4/3, we're going to treat that as a division in parentheses, 4 divided by 3. Pi is going to be 3.14. And the radius is going to appear 3 times. What was the radius? We're doing the first one. Radius is 1 centimeter. So I want to see 1 times 1 times 1. All right. Grab your calculator. Let's type it in. This one's going to be interesting. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 1 times 1 times 1. Okay, final answer, 4.18666666666666, and it keeps on going. All right, my calculator threw a 7 at the end. That's just because they're rounding off the last digit. Either way, I will accept this answer. 4.18 followed by a whole lot of sixes. Here's the point. You better make it cubic centimeters. Centimeters with a little 3 in the corner. All right. For my purposes today, this is a flawless answer. 4.1866666666. Beautiful. Let's do the next one over here. All right. We're looking for volume. Start with the original complete formula. V equals 4/3 pi r to the third power. All right, we're going to treat that as a division as we've been doing. 4 divided by 3. Pi is 3.14. And the radius here is 5. I see radius to the third power, so that means I need 3 instances of 5. All right, here is our expression. It looks kind of crazy, but we're getting used to that. 4 divided by 3 times 3.14 times 5 times 5 times 5. Final answer here, V equals 523.33333333. All right, there are 3's all the way to the end. All right, I'm going to go ... to indicate that they go on forever. For today, that's good enough. All right, let's label the units. This would be cubic centimeters. They gave us centimeters. Centimeters are always cubic when doing volume. Volume is always cubic units. Here is our final answer. 523.33333 cubic centimeters. We could round that off, but for today, I'm leaving it just like that. Great job. This has been the volume of a sphere formula, one of the more advanced formulas on the GED Math reference page. Any questions, any comments, any concerns, any disagreements, please answer in the comments in the chat below. Type something to me and I will respond to all of you. Do you have any questions, any confusion? Do you want me to address any other details in the next video? So let's summarize circles and spheres. First off, what was the vocabulary today? Did you write it all down in your notebook? We talked about pi, radius, diameter, circumference, area, volume, and spheres. We even mentioned perimeter. Okay, what were the formulas? Do you remember? We looked at circumference. Let's write these out. They're worth writing out again. Circumference was C equals 2 pi r. Area was pi r squared. And the volume of a sphere was 4/3 pi radius to the third power. Again, these will all be given to you. You just have to be familiar with them. All right. Now, this other question, number 3. What's all this about square units? Square units, square inches, square feet. Aren't we doing circles? Why are we talking about cubic inches if we're doing circles? The answer is that it doesn't matter what kind of shape you're doing. If you're finding the area of something, you're using square units, square feet, square miles, square meters. If we're doing a 3D shape and we're doing volume, I don't care what kind of shape it is, your answer is cubic units. A sphere has a volume in cubic units. You're just going to get used to that. Volume is always cubic, area is always squared. Okay. How about this now? Number 4. Can we list all the types of math we encountered in today's lesson? Grab your notebook, take a second. What did we do today? What was involved today? Answer in the chat. Tell me if I'm missing anything. Answer in the comments. Well, we've done multiplication. We did a little bit of division. I did see a fraction. I would call all of this algebra because if you're working with letters, we're doing algebra. This is all considered geometry. Geometry is measuring shapes and whatnot. What else did we deal with today? I saw some decimals. We did some calculator skills. And what else did we do? We did formulas. Yeah, it's pretty good. Am I missing anything? What else was covered in today's lesson? What else was involved in today's lesson? Answer in the comments. All right, guys, I want to thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to the channel for more free video lessons on GED Math. I'd like to ask you, if you like what you saw today, please consider sending this video to someone else who might benefit from the lesson. It's word of mouth recommendations like that that really keep the channel growing, and I appreciate every time you send this video to someone else and help get the word out. Stay tuned for part 2 of this series on circle geometry, which is GED Math for Beginners, starting in the middle. In part 2, we're going to study something called surface area, as well as some word problems, and also some alternatives to using 3.14 as pi. It's going to get a little more technical, but I want to show you some other things that directly relate to what we studied today and are just a little bit further along. So that's it for this one. Keep that good attitude. Keep writing everything in your notebook. Subscribe, like, and share the channel, and have a great day. Thank you.